Well, good morning, everyone. We are out here at the T&S Farm. Tom, you are out here. You are a beekeeper in kind of the height of bee season right now.
Sure is.
Now, bee season comes up. Of course, you're making all sorts of honey and honeycomb, but there's a whole lot more that goes into beekeeping.
Oh, there's a whole bunch that goes into beekeeping. Our season really started midwinter when we were trying to build the bees up and get them ready for spring. This spring happened really quick, and then it got cold again.
Yeah.
So the bees got a little bit confused, so we're having a little bit of trouble with our queens right now. At least I am. Some of my friends are too. And so I either have colonies that are producing abundant amounts of honey, or I have colonies that are just kind of struggling along, doing their best to keep their own.
Hey, they're trying. Can
They're
only ask
trying.
that much, right? Now, when it comes to beekeeping, they are not awake right now. They like to sleep.
Well, they're not out right now.
Okay.
They're in the hive. Some bees are actually still working in the hive and doing things that they need to do. They're raising brood. They're taking care of their young. Some are resting and sleeping, and then others are getting ready for their workday.
There you go. But they don't like light, so we don't want to wake them up and disturb them right now.
No, we wouldn't want to put a bunch of lights on them. It would make them think morning is there, and they would come out and cover our lights, basically.
Oh, gosh. Well, we don't want that. Not on TV. They're not TV ready this morning. But you have not always been a beekeeper. In fact, you actually used to be in the TV business.
I was. Sort of still am.
There you go. But how did you transition into beekeeping?
I moved to Southwest Georgia, and I went from working television news, similar to what you're doing, to taking care of chickens in a small bee farm and working some freelance.
I love it. Just kind of a hobby that you picked up and now have turned into a bit of a business for you as well. Yep. But it was not very successful at the beginning.
Well, my first start as a beekeeper was tough. I didn't know anyone around here. Now people are lucky they can join the Suija Beekeepers Bee Club, and they can get help from other beekeepers. But when I first started, I was kind of on my own, reading books and that sort of thing, and a lot of trial and error.
Persistence. I absolutely love it. Now we're going to get a little look into the life of a beekeeper, of course, talking a bit about some of the equipment that they use this morning here on Good Day. But how many bees do you have?
How many individual bees? It would
do you have an idea?
Millions of bees. Wow. I have no idea how many actual bees. But colonies, I typically manage around 30 colonies over the summer.
And how much honey does that produce?
About 100 pounds per colony.
Wow, that's a lot of honey.
Yeah, for one guy.
Not too bad, not too bad. Definitely a sweet place out here. Again, T&S Farm. We'll be taking a look at some of the beekeeping equipment, some of the activity that they do, and all the hard work that makes that honey taste oh so good. That's coming up live here on Good Day a little bit later. Back to you guys in the studio. All right, guys, Tom, you said you make about 65 pounds of honey in a season, but it's not just honey that comes out of the hives. We've got the honeycomb and a couple different types of honey here.
Yes, and it's 65 pounds per colony on average.
Holy cow!
Not 65 pounds of honey.
So how many colonies do you have?
I run about 30 colonies in the summer.
Now, I can't do math very well, especially this quickly on television, but that is a lot of honey.
It's a lot of honey.
Whew! And, okay, so now we got to break it down.
Okay. So our honey products, hive products, types of products you can get from the hive. You can get wax. Okay. So when we extract the honey, we cut the wax cappings off the top of the honeycomb.
And is this what makes those nice honeycomb wax candles?
And that's what makes your wax candles.
Okay.
In all your church candles. And the reason why the wax doesn't leave a residue when it burns, so it doesn't mess up paintings or statues and that kind of thing. So that's why beeswax is such a nice wax for candles. And, I mean,
honeycombs, I think they just look cool.
Oh, and it tastes great.
Well, there you go. Nice little candy there, too.
Yep.
Okay, but we got a couple different types of honey.
Okay, so
that's the good stuff.
comb honey.
Okay, so this is a type of honey.
Yep, it's comb honey. And we have chunk honey, which is honey, liquid honey with comb in it.
Okay, and you can see a nice little chunk of honeycomb in there. Does that just give it extra flavor?
It's just a nice combination of the two products.
There you go.
And then we have liquid honey.
Which is what people are most familiar with.
Most familiar. In the United States. In most countries, they eat comb honey and creamed honey, which is a crystallized honey.
That sounds yummy.
It's really good.
All right, we might have to get some of that. All right, but you got a couple different colors of honey.
Yes.
Well, what is the difference between these two?
Well, this honey here was gathered in, well, after July 4th. It's the cotton bloom. that produce this honey, and the extra floral nectars of the cotton plant. And because of where I am, we're surrounded by cotton fields, and
Makes sense.
and we get cotton honey in the fall. And then this is our spring wildflower honey, and that is everything that's blooming right now. And if you have allergies, this is the stuff to be eating.
I say you always hear about the local honey is what you
Local
want
honey.
for your allergies. Now, is there a difference between the taste of these two?
There sure is.
One's sweeter, one's more floral notes. I've been watching a lot of Food Network lately.
Well, you can smell them just like you do with wine,
Okay.
and you can see that they smell differently.
Now, I'm not a honey extraordinaire, expert, or anything like that. So what are these notes? Can you
Oh.
describe the smells to folks? Because to me, it smells like yummy honey.
It's, to me, I just love it all.
Well,
So-
there you go.
Now we have honey shows, and that would be, we have a honey judge in our club, and he would be the one to say, oh, what are the notes and all that kind of
We
thing.
need to
'cause
get the
that's their
Sweega
thing.
beekeeper honey judge out here
Yeah,
because,
that's
guys,
Kent, our president. He's the guy to do it. But dip your finger in. These are going home with
I
you anyways.
wish, oh, well, thank
So-
you. I
so
wish I
go
could
ahead.
explain the smells to you guys. Let's see if I can do it a little better with the taste.
Smells like flowers.
Oh, that's good honey.
Kind of tastes like flowers. Now that was cotton.
Okay, so that one, but it still has some flowers in it.
Oh, the cotton bloom.
You can definitely taste the flowers in the aftertaste. All right, now let's try this one.
That would be the finish if we were tasting wine.
That one has a bit more of a grainy texture.
That could be that it's a year older. It's a little crystallized.
Okay.
So that would be the
Both
where you're getting the
very,
texture.
very good. Now, when it comes to the darker colors and the lighter colors, is that because bees go from flower to flower getting that pollen on them?
This one, the honey is produced with the nectar of the plant. So it's sugar and water that they reduce down into honey, basically. And during different nectar flows, different plants produce different colored nectar because of the minerals and dissolved salts and other things that are in the honey besides just sugar.
Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating. Well, we are out here at T&S Farms. Of course, we've got all sorts of stuff, honey, equipment. Bees are still sleeping right now, but we're probably going to talk about them too this morning. I got to finish licking my fingers because, guys, this honey is so good. How can people get their hands on some of this?
They can come out to the farm, or they can give us a call at 229-522-3099.
Yummy, and you guys are definitely going to want to do that. Back to you guys in the studio. And everyone, we are out here once again at T&S Farms talking all about honeybees, but the bees are still sleeping, working. We don't want to disturb them in their hives just yet, but we have so much else to talk about. Tom, equipment. When you go, of course, to talk to the bees and get their honey,
Yep.
I guess you don't really talk to the bees. You
Well,
need some very
some of us
special-
do.
Oh, we'll leave that for another day. But you need some very special equipment.
There's a little bit of things that you're going to want. You need a smoker.
Okay.
Now, what a smoker does is it makes the bees, well, it helps to calm the bees because it eliminates some of the pheromones that they're putting out saying somebody's coming into my house because it's covered up by a smoky smell,
Oh, so those would be the smells.
Yep, the smells.
The people smells.
basically.
Okay.
And then another thing that it kind of does is it makes the bees think that their house is on fire. So they go in and they grab their stuff, and their stuff is honey. So when they engorge on that honey, it distends their abdomen, and it makes it so that it's a lot more difficult for them to sting you.
Okay, now you're talking in beekeeper terms here.
Okay.
When you're saying it distends their abdomen, does that mean it makes them fatter? So
They get all
stinger
full,
goes...
so their stinger ends up where they
Okay.
can't put it down into you.
I
So
like that, so you don't
it's-
get stung.
It helps.
Gotcha. How many
So-
times have you been stung?
4 times maybe this year.
Really? That's not that many.
No. We don't
Impressive.
get stung a lot. I was stung a couple of days ago on the chin, and that's why I didn't shave, because it still kind of hurts. But other than that, yeah, it's rare.
That's not bad at all.
No, it's very
okay,
rare.
but we want to talk more about this smoker.
Okay.
So it kind of knocks them out, sedates them, but it doesn't harm the bees.
Well, it doesn't hurt them at all because what we use, I always use just things from right around
The yard.
the yard.
Okay.
You know, leaves, pine straw,
And now
whatever.
does that help because the bees are out there in the yard collecting nectar and things like that?
Well, I'm just cheap.
There you go. That works too. I like
It's
cheap.
free. I can pick it up.
Works
so,
to very me.
So it's kind of fun. It's the one thing about beekeeping. We get to play with a little bit of fire every day.
Alrighty.
So we want to light this thing up?
Yeah,
Show you how
let's
it works?
go.
So basically, all you're doing is
And that's just cardboard.
it's just a piece of cardboard just to help get things going. If I can get the cardboard going.
It's a little humid out this morning.
It is.
All right.
All right, it will get going.
Of course, on television, it doesn't want to work.
Need a little beeswax.
Yeah, it's not elbow grease, it's beeswax out here, huh?
Yep.
There
All
we
right,
go.
don't use wet cardboard.
Now, does it have to get a certain temperature? Does it have to be a certain,
Actually,
just that smoke,
what we're
whatever it
going
takes
for really is a cool,
cool fire?
a cool smoke, because we're not even going to really get a fire going. The fire just gets the material smoldering.
Okay.
And then after we get it about 3/4 full and burning,
Now you're pumping this.
we have a bellows.
Is that just to
That's
kind
just
of
to
get the
get some
fire
air
like
in
you would do
there.
on the fireplace?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and then once you have a,
You just kind of stuff it.
yep, you just pour stuff in, and then once it's all going real nice, we just close up the top, and it's just a little.
There it is.
So it's cool smoke. This isn't hot. It doesn't burn you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't burn the bees.
Okay. Again, it just kind of
It's just
knocks them out a little bit.
I wouldn't say knocks them out. It puts a little bit of smoke in the air, so
Mm.
they're smelling smoke instead of the alarm pheromones. They're smelling smoke instead of us.
Okay.
And it just kind of lets them know, hey, something's going to happen here.
We're gonna come take your honey.
Yeah, take your honey, inspect you, whatever we're doing.
All right. And so this isn't just for taking your honey. It is for inspection to make sure they're healthy.
Well,
doing everything
anytime
good?
we approach a hive, not every time, but you puff a little bit in your entrance, let the bees calm down, and then go look inside.
There you go, and it's all right there.
And it's very
definitely not very complicated.
No.
Did you make this yourself?
No,
or?
this was a purchased item.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So-
Never know. Never know. And what are these?
These are hive tools,
Oh.
and every beekeeper has one. It basically looks like a little crowbar, and when the bees are in their box, they glue everything together.
Well, the honey's sticky.
Well, they use this propolis. You can feel the hive tools kind of sticky in places.
A little bit.
That's a little bit of propolis that's left behind there from prying their boxes open, and that propolis is used to glue everything together. It's also antibacterial, antifungal.
And that's not the honey.
No, that's not the honey. It's just a sticky glue that they glue their equipment together with.
Yeah. And the bees make all of this.
Well, they gather that from tree saps and nectars and mix
Okay.
it together and make up glue.
So this is what you do to grab the honeycombs?
Well, this is what we use to pry boxes apart, to pry frames out.
Okay, because they're all in there. They're doing their
we
thing.
can pull a box and frames out.
Well, there you go. That will be coming up a little later here on Good Day. We're out here at T&S Farms learning all sorts of things. The smoker. What was this called again?
The hive tool.
The hive tool. Very, very difficult to name, but fascinating stuff. All goes into the honey that you and I eat and help keep those sinuses all clear from allergies. Back to you guys in the studio. All right, guys. Well, we've got a nucleus beehive out here. We're at T&S Farm. I'm going to call it T&S Beehive, but it's a big beehive. And this is a baby one.
This is what we call a nucleus hive, or this is what we would build a nucleus into. One of the ways that we make increases or get more bees is to make up what we call a nuke. And we take the nucleus of the hive, which is the center of the beehive, minus the queen.
I was going to say.
Put all the brood, the baby bees, some field bees in a box like this, and then we add a brand new queen, and we start a brand new beehive.
Now, how do you find queens? Because they're not. I'm assuming they're not just buzzing around and you say, I'm going to put you in my new beehive.
Well, there's some really good beekeepers who raise queens.
Oh, wow.
I got a buddy named Denny Best who raises queens. I use a lot of his queens, or the bees will raise their own. The bees know how to do it. If a beehive is queenless and there's an egg or a larva less than 3 days old,
That's
they
the queen.
they can make a queen out of it.
Well, there you go. You don't have to be born into royalty.
Nope, they'll make you royal.
And how does that work? I mean, I know you're not a bee, and I know you can't talk to the bees, but...
Well, what happens is a worker bee is a female bee that is infertile. So she's the worker bee. Then there's drones. Those are the male bees. And they only have one job, basically, plus kind of keep the ladies happy in the hive. And then there's the queen. And it's all the drone is an infertile egg put into the hive, raised up, becomes male. A fertilized egg becomes female or a queen, depending on their diet. If they're fed royal jelly their entire life, as a larva and as an egg and all that, or as a larva and a pupa, they become a queen. If they're fed royal jelly for the first 3 days and then switch to bee bread, they become a worker.
Fascinating.
It's based on their diet.
I tell you, you become royal based on your diet. Why can't that be the way with humans? But
Wouldn't that be easier?
I tell you. But we are talking about bees this morning. So again, this is essentially
This is what you would basically have in a beehive. A full-size beehive is 10 frames, and then we keep adding supers as the season progresses.
And
but
those are the levels?
Those are the different boxes, and then eventually you get honey in them. But all beehives have a top.
Okay. And so if we were approaching this hive with bees in it, we would approach it with the smoker?
We would have approached it from the back of the hive, not from
Okay.
the front. We would have smoked the entrance a little bit. We would have smoked the cover just a little bit as we opened it up. Just let the bees know that something's coming.
Hey, we're coming.
We'll take it off, and then we would take an outside frame out first.
Okay.
And these aren't drawn. These are just ready to go frames.
Gotcha.
And extra,
Got a couple other
extra
bugs
friends.
on there.
And so we would start on the outside. We would remove this frame because this frame would be most likely honey.
Okay.
And we would put it to the outside, and then we would start working
Here,
towards...
let's turn it this way so all the folks at home can see.
Oh,
Oh,
there.
we go.
And we would...
TV purposes, folks.
Yep. We would work our way towards the middle.
Okay.
And in the center of your beehive is typically where your brood is, where your queen is, where there's eggs.
So that's where all the bees
nursery.
like to focus.
That's where your main group of bees are, and that's where most of them are working. The rest of the hive, they're storing away pollen and nectar and food.
And would that be in each of these little honeycombs that we're seeing? Is that
Sure,
what they keep
sure
in those
would.
pockets?
In the outside edges, there's usually honey.
Okay.
Then in the center, there's a ring of pollen, which is bee food for baby bees.
Right.
And then in the middle, it would all be
The bees.
the brood.
Okay. Interesting. And now where does the hive tool come in?
The hive tool comes in trying to get all these things apart when the bees have it all glued together.
Okay, so again, imagine this was
'Cause-
a real hive with bees, with the honey.
Because everything would be stuck
be
together
sticky.
with propolis. I mean, well, you
And again,
you
for
can-
folks who are just joining, that propolis is,
It's bee glue, and it's right here. You
and
can
there's
see
some right there. So you just kind of pull it apart.
And you can make this into tea.
I was going to say,
And
whoa.
it's really good for you.
And it's fragile. So you can eat this?
You can eat it.
There you go.